Hey everyone, Bandit here. Welcome to the Bandit Flight Simmer channel, and we're continuing our series in our Diamond DA62 on our flight around the world in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And we are in London City Centre Airport, and we're going to be doing our trip through France today. And the reason it's been a while since we've done a trip is they were coming out with the scenery update for France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. So thought we might as well wait till that came out. And that came out yesterday, so we're going to do the trip today. I'll just show you the route real quick here. We are going to be taking off out of London, heading down over the White Cliffs of Dover, crossing the channel at the narrowest point there. We'll see some sights on the way to Paris, and the scenery update should really have some nice scenery for Paris. Then we'll continue down through central France, and we'll end up in Nice. So let's get the aircraft going and get on our way to France. Okay, already got the fuel turned on, so let's get our battery going. Turn on our position lights. Okay, we'll get the masters on, the alternators on, prime the fuel pumps, cancel that caution. And clear all around, and let's get the aircraft started. So we'll start the right engine first. All good. And the left engine. Okay, we'll get our avionics master on. Set our flaps for takeoff. Our taxi light on. And we'll head on out to the runway, and we're taking off heading eastbound today. We got pretty good weather. What you see here is pretty much the worst weather forecast for today, so just some scattered broken cloud, and yeah, should be a nice day for flying, so that worked out in our favor as well. So I've already pre-programmed the route into the flight plan here. So I'll put up our CDI, that in there. So let's get everything else set up here as we're going to taxi out to the runway. Our strobe on, landing light on, taxi light off, put our pumps on. Take off, set the altimeter, and turn the pitot heat on. And London traffic, it's Diamond Bravo Delta November Tango. We're going to be taking off runway 9, heading eastbound. Okay, all lined up. And everything looks good. Let's get going. Airspeed's good. Temperatures and pressures are good. 80 knots, rotate. Positive rate, we'll get the gear up. And coming up on 100 knots, put the flaps up. Bring the power back a little bit. And I think we'll just stay at about 1,000 feet here. Start heading off on our track. So we got some long legs here, so I'll get the autopilot going. We'll get a post takeoff check. Gear is up, flaps are up. Power is back. And I'll just get the autopilot on and then we'll continue on. So we'll put the autopilot on. Put on altitude hold. Reduce our power a little bit. Throw on nav. We'll put the fuel pumps off. And yeah, I think we're all good for post takeoff. So we'll just cruise at this airspeed here. It's about 75% power, and you can see we're going to follow the Thames River down to the coast, and we're gonna first stop's going to be over the Canterbury Cathedral. Okay, everyone, I'm back here. We're just coming up to the town of Canterbury, in the south, the east part of England, and you can see Canterbury Cathedral just coming up in the distance here. It was originally founded in the 6th century, and after a fire it was rebuilt to what you see now in the 12th century. So a very historic church, that's for sure. And I'm just going to offset to the right here a little bit. So you can fly by it and get a good view. Hop outside and get a good view from the outside. And then next we'll be heading off to cross the English Channel, starting at the White Cliffs of Dover. Okay, now we're coming up to where we're going to cross the English Channel, and we're doing that near the town of Dover, where the famous White Cliffs of Dover are located. This is the town of Dover here, and the White Cliffs are on the either side of the town. And they're famous because they stand out very easily from the coast of France on a clear day. They're about 350 feet high, and they're made of chalk, and that's why they're white, and they really stand out on a clear day. You can easily see them from France. The narrowest point across the channel here is less than 20 miles. So let's see if we see the cliffs here. We should hear just on our right here as we head off over the channel. Just coming up to the edge. Very pronounced drop off. Yeah, there. Famous White Cliffs of Dover. So our next stop will be the shores of France. We'll see you there. Okay, now we're coming up to our next point of interest, and it's the Vimy Memorial in Vimy Ridge in France. And it's a famous landmark that was erected after World War I because of the Battle of Vimy Ridge that was fought here World War I, where there were over 10,000 Canadian casualties, including over 3,500 Canadian deaths during a major battle here that overtook the German trenches in World War I. So that was erected shortly after, I think in the 1930s, and it's a very, very important historical monument for the Canadian military. So let's move on to our next site, off to Paris, I think. Okay, now we're coming up on the way to France here. We're just flying by the town of Amiens, France, and we're flying by a Gothic cathedral built in the 1200s, the Amiens Cathedral. So we might as well have a look at that as we fly by. It is typical of the Gothic cathedrals from that era, similar to Notre Dame. You can just see it here coming up in the corner. Okay, we're just coming up to Paris, and you can see downtown Paris, central downtown in the area straight ahead of us here. There's the Eiffel Tower over to the right, so we're going to pick up the Rhine River and then follow that along. I think the best way to view this is just hop outside the airplane and enjoy the scenery. There's lots of stuff to see here. They've just done a big scenery update for France, so that will be the best way to see the sights of Paris. So let's hop outside and we'll continue the flight from there. And we're just flying over Notre Dame Cathedral right there. And unfortunately that caught fire and was very heavily damaged a few years ago, so I'm sure they're doing renovations on that as we speak. You can see the outline of Paris here. Coming up on the Eiffel Tower. That's a great scenery to see. Fly over the Eiffel Tower now. Then we'll continue down the river here. Heading out of the external part of Paris. So yeah, the scenery is very realistic, and it's almost like you're really flying over downtown Paris here. And I'm sure in a real airplane you wouldn't be able to have the freedom we have to fly over the city like this. So that's central Paris. We're going to continue heading southwest here, and we're going to fly over the Palace of Versailles next. So let's hop back in the airplane and I'll join you as we approach the Palace of Versailles. Okay, we're just coming up on the Palace of Versailles off in the distance here, and we will go outside for a view of that as well as we fly by. Well, that was a quick overflight of the palace there. It came up on us pretty quick, so we're just going to continue on our track to southern France here. And next point of interest will be a chateau, and we'll have a look at that when we fly by. It's in about 50 miles, so I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, we're coming up to another point of interest here. It's called the Chateau de Sully-sur-Loire, and it's a castle located on the Lorette of France, and it was built by the Duke of Sully in the 1500s. So let's hop outside and have a look at that as we fly past. And it's a beautiful 1500s castle built on the intersection of the two rivers here. little town in central France. Okay, so we'll continue on south as we head towards the Mediterranean coast of France, and we'll see you again in a little bit. Okay everyone, we're still cruising along here. We're in central France, and very much a farming area of France. And we're having great weather. It's been good weather today. This is pretty much what we're expecting for the rest of the trip. Just some scattered cloud and light winds, so beautiful day to be flying in France. Scenery has been really amazing. Coming up on a little town, and we're going to be flying over a place called Palais de Pape, or Palace of the Popes, and it's a historical fortress built back in the 1300s, and many papal enclaves were held here, elections of popes and stuff like that historically, so I think it's just coming up on the nose here, so we're going to have a quick fly over that and then continue southbound. As we approach there, we need to look at our fuel, and our fuel is getting down here, and it's that time where we need to turn on our aux pumps to get our fuel back up, so we'll do that now. Get the left and right aux pump on, we should see our fuel increase back up to pretty much full on the main tanks. Okay, now we're coming up on the town of Avignon, and this is where a palace is located called Palais de Pape, or Palace of the Popes. You can just see it on the nose here, and we'll head outside as we fly over and get a view of the palace. And you just come up over the river here, see the palace just left of the nose. And it was built in the 1300s. The historic significance of this palace is it was used for 6 papal enclaves over the centuries. So the popes would meet here and vote in their new pope. And we're all familiar with that being done in Rome, but it wasn't always done in the cathedrals in Rome. It's been carried out through various locations around the world. So get a good view of it as we fly over here. Anyway, we're going to continue and head on south. It's starting to get dark here, so we should hit the Mediterranean coast, and it should be dark, and then we should have a nice, beautiful, scenic flight across the Mediterranean coast for our arrival into Nice. So stay tuned, and see you there in a few minutes. Now we're just coming up on the city of Marseille, France. That is on the Mediterranean coast on the south part of France. Starting to get dark here. And then we're going to follow the, so we head out here along the coast. You can see the Mediterranean over here. And then we're going to follow the south coast of France to Nice, where we're going to be finishing our trip. This is Marseille International Airport. And the night scenery in the simulator is really, really spectacular as well. Very authentic looking. Anyway, so we'll continue as we get a little closer to Nice. I'll join you again there. When we're back in the cockpit here, it's full-on night here in southern France, and we're just flying along the south coast, just coming up to Nice. You can see the international airport just off in the distance there. Coming up to the city here, and it's right around this area right here is where they have the Cannes Film Festival. It's a popular festival every year for the film industry. So what we're going to do to help us get into the airport here, I've set up the ILS approach. So I've tuned the frequency for the ILS for 4 left, and I'm just going to show it to you real quick here. So we're coming in from this direction, so we're going to join this ILS frequency to guide us down to runway 4 left in Nice. And it's always useful to do that at night because it's hard to see obstacles and stuff like that, even if you're coming in visually here. So I've got all that set up. We're on an intercept for the ILS right now, and just alter my heading a little bit more to the right, and I'll arm the approach, and we'll use that to guide us down to the runway. In the meantime, we can just enjoy the scenery as we're coming along the coast here. I think this is the area where the Cannes Film Festival is held, right along this coastline area right here. Can I just hop outside and have a quick look? Actually, I think this here is the actual venue they do use for the Cannes Film Festival. Okay, so we'll continue in. And looks like we're almost getting lined up with the airport here, so it's time to start getting ready to land. So our landing lights on. Start slowing down a little bit. The minimums for the approach, although it's visual, we don't need it, are 210 feet. Beautiful night for a landing in Nice here. The weather right now is 12 degrees and light winds out of the east. Some scattered clouds, so perfect night for landing. On the south coast of France here. So start bleeding off the speed, so you can see our localizer, which is our guidance for the track coming in, and our glide path is just coming up. So, and we're 9 miles back, so I'm going to lower some landing gear. And our glide path is this little indicator here, and since we've armed the approach, yeah, so it starts the descent to maintain that glide path. Got our first notch of flap out. Turn on our boost pumps. And we're looking good, all lined up for the approach. Another good reason to set this up is quite often there's these big airports, there's 2 runways close together, and we want to land on 4 left. So I've tuned the instrumentation for 4 left, so that should guide us right down to that runway. Make sure you don't land on the wrong runway. So even though you're flying visually, you still use instrumentation to help guide you at night. And even in the daytime, if I was coming in here in the daytime, I would definitely set up those instruments for the applicable approach. So we're coming up on 1,600 feet. Our altimeter is set. Look at the final notch of flap out. We'll go for about 90 knots for our approach speed. Do a pre-landing check, gear is down, flaps are at landing, landing lights on, altimeter is set, and all looking good. And I'll keep 90 knots till we are on short final. Nice is a big international airport. Next trip we'll depart out of here in the daytime and we'll get to see what it looks like in the daytime. But the night visuals in the simulator are really done nice. Very realistic looking. The ILS approach is what we would use at most airports if the weather was really bad and we needed to get into the airport. It can get you in most times, even if the weather is fairly bad. But tonight we're just using it as a assistance, sort of a visual arrival to Nice here. Just coming up on 500 feet on final, and tower clears the land by now. And I'll just exit at the first turnoff we have available. Right now the autopilot's still flying all this. I'll disconnect it here momentarily. So we're 100 foot above our minimum, so 200 feet or 210 feet, that's where our minimums would be. If we didn't see the runway on an instrument approach, we'd have to go around. And so we're fairly close to the runway when that comes up. So there's our minimums, and I'll just disconnect the autopilot. And we'll just fly it in for the landing here. Bump in the runway there. Yeah, that wasn't very pleasant. Usually when they update the scenery, they take care of those issues. Okay. Taxi ahead to the exit point. It's coming up. So it was a pretty good trip. Ended up in the south of France at night. Still got lots of gas left. Total time for the trip was about 4.5 hours. If you were with me for the whole time. Lots of interesting sights to see as we flew through France here. So our next trip, we're going to take off out of Nice here, and it's going to be a tour of Italy. And we're going to fly down the west coast of Italy, so we'll be flying by Rome and Naples, and then crossing the southern part of the boot, and we might make it as far as Athens, Greece. So if you like to join me for that, make sure you hit subscribe and sign up for the notifications, and you'll know the next time that video comes out. And it'll be about a week or so. It won't go as long as I did for this time because they're not doing any scenery updates for Italy. So yeah, so about a week's time we'll be doing our next trip to Italy. So thanks for joining me today. It was a great trip. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. I'm just going to park it here myself after I sign off and shut her down for the night. Got a nice airport scenery update here in Nice. We'll just park it right here. So thanks for joining me. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Bandit out.